Hi everyone, today we're looking at gender and crime. Firstly, we're going to identify patterns in offending according to gender. Then we're going to look at the different sociological explanations for these patterns and then compare and contrast. So firstly, what I'd like you to do is to interpret the graph for the starter activity. So on the right hand side we've got a graph that shows the percentage of offenders according to the type of offence and the gender of the offender. So blue is male and purple female. So firstly, I'd like you to answer those questions. You can see, for example, the first one, what gender is more likely to commit crime overall? You can see that most of it is blue, so therefore most of the offences are committed by men. So have a go at answering those, and that should give you the patterns of offending according to gender. Secondly, please, could you write down these key terms, or at least make a note of them somewhere. The first one, chivalry thesis, the idea that male police and judges treat female offenders more leniently. So the word chivalrous essentially means when men behave in a sort of gentlemanly way towards women. So it's the idea in terms of crime that male police officers and judges are perhaps behaving in a gentlemanly way towards women, and perhaps they are more lenient because they feel that they have to uphold those stereotypical norms and values about how men should behave towards women. And that means female offenders may be let off certain offences, or they might not get such long sentences in prison compared to men. Bedroom culture is a familiar key term for us, so remember it's that subculture that girls create which helps them develop better communication skills. That will be relevant later. And then the third one, the glass ceiling. You may have heard of this before, but don't worry if you haven't. Watch the clip. So this is a hyperlink to a website. Watch the clip and write down your own definition of what you think it is. Pause the video here, and then I'm going to give you a definition to write down too. So read this definition and look to see if it's something similar to what you've got. It doesn't need to be exactly the same, as long as you've got the rough idea. So the glass ceiling is a metaphor for an invisible and unacknowledged barrier that prevents women from progressing in their career regardless of their skills and qualifications. So it's the idea that women may have the same qualifications or even better qualifications than men, but still are not able to access managerial roles or the top positions in a company. And again, this will be relevant later on. So why do women commit less crime than men? So pause the video here and see if you can figure out some reasons using those images. So the first one refers to differences in socialization. So remember, socialization is the process of learning norms and values. Inaccurate crime statistics. We did a whole topic on measuring crime and why some crimes may not be recorded in official statistics. So think about why perhaps crimes committed by women don't appear as much as men. Opportunities to commit crime. So that first picture with the two girls in a bedroom obviously is in reference to bedroom culture. So do girls have more opportunities or less opportunities if they're inside compared to boys who perhaps have more freedom, allowed to play out more, perhaps are less supervised with their playtime? And then social control, kind of linked to the bedroom culture as well, but what other social controls are there on women in society that prevent them from having access to commit crimes? So here is some explanations of the, some details of the 4 explanations. What I would like you to do is to read them and put them in your own words in this table, and also give a criticism of each explanation. So for the first one, differences in socialization, we can say that obviously it says that socialization is when we learn norms and values, but in reference to crime, it's because arguably boys are socialized to be more aggressive, competitive, and that leads them to be more likely to commit crime because of those behaviours that they have learnt at home. And girls are socialised to perhaps be more passive, more sensitive, more emotional, and thus means that they are less likely to take risky behaviour, they're less likely to be aggressive, etc. And so therefore they're less likely to get in trouble for those kinds of violent crimes or destructive crimes. In terms of our because that's what we would write in that first box of explanation. In terms of our criticism, we could say, is this still true? Are girls still socialised to be like this compared to boys? Are girls increasingly being given more freedoms and socialised to perhaps have other hobbies that are not, sitting in a bedroom talking with their friends? Is it an out-of-date explanation? So I've just gone through the first one. I want you to go through the next one. So inaccurate crime statistics. So, why is it that men perhaps they commit more visible crimes that the police can easily see and arrest them for? Opportunities to commit crime we've briefly mentioned. So do girls have more restrictions in terms of where they can go, what times they're out? And social control. So adults are also controlled in terms of what they can and can't do. So perhaps women have more family responsibilities, so they've got less opportunities to be out there committing crimes. And that reference, it mentions the glass ceiling there as well. So if you can't get a top job, will that restrict you in terms of being able to commit fraud or embezzlement, some of those white collar crimes that you need to do through perhaps having a status or a position of power in an organisation? So have a go at explaining it in your own words, please. Do not copy and paste it from the previous slide. The whole point is to try and put it in your own words and try and give a criticism of each explanation. Next, we're going to look at two pieces of research and try to answer those questions. So Heidenson is a feminist sociologist who says that women commit fewer crimes because of the nature of our society. So we live in a patriarchal society. So remember, patriarchal society means a male-dominated society. And because it's a male-dominated society, women perhaps have less opportunity to commit crime because they're expected to do more domestic work. So because they spend more time at home and less time out in the world of work or outside, they are restricted in terms of they're not going to be doing, perhaps violent crimes, vandalism, etc. They're less likely to have jobs where they can, as we mentioned before, access those higher ranks. So they're going to have less access to perhaps finances, so they're less likely to commit fraud, etc. So have a read through this explanation and highlight the different explanations that Heidenson gives for why women commit less crime than men. Secondly, we've got Carlin. So Carlin carried out unstructured interviews with women between the ages of 15 to 46 who had been convicted of crime. And she found that working class women were controlled through the promise of rewards. So essentially what she's saying is that middle class women get consumer goods in return for their wages. But because working class women don't get those rewards through work because perhaps they're in low paid work or they don't work, they make a gender deal in terms of the psychological and material rewards offered by the male breadwinner. So they look for love and finances through their husband rather than through crime. So the rewards are not available. If their rewards are not available to them, whereby perhaps the husband doesn't provide what they need financially, perhaps they don't have a job, then it becomes a situation where they have to commit crime in order to earn a decent living and to survive. So again, read through that explanation there and highlight the different reasons women choose to commit crime. Underline the research methods. I mentioned it's in the first sentence. And what's the strength of using research methods to explain why women commit crime? So why are women committing more crime than in the past? So we can see in recent statistics that the amount of women who are involved in knife crime, so usually possession of a weapon, has increased significantly. So click on that BBC link and find out, why do you think women are more likely to be involved in knife crime compared to the past? So it's been quite topical recently. So have a read of that. It will give you some of the ideas that you can look at. Next, read this text on the left-hand side and answer the questions on the right-hand side. So it's all about why is it women are committing more crime overall. So not just knife crime, all kinds of crime. So the first one, what type of crime are women being arrested for more so than in the past? You can see in the first paragraph, it talks about the number of female offenders increasing, mostly for, or more so for violence offences. So that would help you to answer number one. So go through, I have bolded some of the key parts, so that should help you to answer all of those questions. And think about what research method might be useful for investigating why women choose to commit crime, and justify your answer. So would you use a questionnaire? Would that give you an honest answer? Would you rather use an interview where you can build a rapport with the participant? Do you think they're more likely to lie to you in that situation compared to a questionnaire? So give your justification as well. And you can just write the answers to those questions on this slide. And then lastly, practice exam questions. So identify and explain one reason why there are far fewer women than men in prisons in England and Wales. So you can go back to that chart we did at the start with the 4 explanations and pick one of those to help explain that. And the second one, identify and explain one reason why more women are committing crime than in the past. And you can use the previous slide, so this part here, this part explains why they're more likely to commit crime compared to the past. So you're explaining what that change in the trend is, rather than just explaining why less women are committing crime. Remember, for 4-mark questions, firstly you want to explain the reason. You get 1 mark for identifying a reason. So for number 1, identify and explain one reason. So I might say one reason is primary socialisation. I get 1 mark for that. I then want to go on to explain what that means. So how does primary socialisation lead women to commit less crime? And I might also want to reference the feminist Heidenson, because she talks about that in her research. And once I explain that research, I should then get 4 marks. So please remember not to just write one sentence for these 4 markers. You must write a sort of peel paragraph almost in order to get the full 4 marks. Please make sure that you upload all your work to Show My Homework so your teachers can see that you've completed it and so that they can mark it for you. If there are any questions or this doesn't make sense, don't just leave it and forget about it. Make sure that you email your teachers. They are here to help you and they're willing to help you. So please email them as much as you need to. Great, thanks very much. Bye.